Welcome in. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio here on KDSJ 479. It's the A edition as we'd like to get you ready for Arkansas kickoff as Arkansas travels to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels in the SEC opener. And we thought we'd catch up and get this thing started here on the A. So we take a trip down to Oxford where we caught up with Jared Redding of the Daily Mississippian. Jared, welcome to OTH, my man.
Hey, thank you for having me. How y'all doing today?
Can you hear me, Jared?
Yes, sir.
Momentarily, we'll be joined with Jared momentarily. Man, I'm really looking forward to it. Momentarily, we'll be connecting here shortly. Arkansas Ole Miss, 6:30 kickoff on the SEC network. We'll be joined by Jared Redding. Jared, welcome to OTH, my man. There we go. How you doing, Jared?
I'm doing good. How about y'all?
I'm doing real good. Arkansas Ole Miss, 6:30 tomorrow night in Vaughn Hemingway Stadium, Jared. What are some things that you're going to be looking forward when heading into this ball game? Ole Miss is coming off a big, disappointing road loss at Memphis to open up the season. Talk about that, and what are some things that Coach Luke and staff have to get corrected in this SEC opener?
Yeah, when you talked about disappointment, I mean, that's really a big understatement coming into Memphis. I mean, obviously it was well advertised coming into the season. Really the lack of depth and inexperience in the offensive line, and it really showed last Saturday against Memphis. Even though the sack numbers don't exactly show it, that they were just under duress and under pressure like the whole night, even with a 5- and 6-man rush. Just some missed assignments, mainly on blitz packages and stuff. But that offensive line was a big issue, and Corral really was just being chased around the whole night. Had to make some stuff happen, made a few things happen, but it wasn't really enough. They got behind the chains early against Memphis. A lot of incompletions on first and second down, and they were unable to really run the ball at all. They had negative 3 yards at halftime rushing, and they only ended up with maybe 63 on the game. So, Coach Luke said at the end of the game last week, he said, guys, these freshmen, these transfers, we got to really grow up early because we have SEC play next week. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they respond to all of that, kind of get their first college experience under their belt, and see how they translate against an SEC opponent of all people.
Jared, how much of it do you think was attributed to the new offensive coordinator there, Rich Rodriguez, coming in with a totally different scheme? How much was that attributed to the offensive lack of production?
I think it may have had a little bit. I mean, they just got behind schedule a whole lot. I think the plays were there. I think the plays and the scheme were there to make big plays, so to speak. But in the end, it just comes down to really who's blocking up front, who's snapping the football, and who's protecting.
Talking with Jared Redding of the Daily Mississippian, beat writer for the Ole Miss football program. Jared, when you look at this Arkansas-Ole Miss matchup, I want to get your keys on what does Ole Miss have to do versus Arkansas as a defense versus Arkansas's offense in tomorrow's game, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about Ole Miss defensively, they have to get off the field on third down. In Arkansas, this is a rushing attack. Even though the past couple of years that they'll just absolutely wear you out in the end. With guys like Rakeem Boyd, when you talked about Arkansas's run game, so they have to really set the tone early and really stay tight on third in short situations. That's what really worked for Ole Miss last week against Memphis. One of those 2 touchdowns Memphis scored was with a short field. So this Ole Miss defense was well improved from last year, being, notoriously known as the worst in the SEC. But they just really have to play that old school football, against a real physical Arkansas team, and just really stay out of their own way with penalties. But it's going to be really interesting to see what Rakeem Boyd does in this one after a pretty decent debut against Portland State.
Talk with Jared Redding of the Daily Mississippian. He covers the Ole Miss Rebels. Will be joining us weekly as his schedule permits to give us all the 411 with the Rebels. Jared, when you look at this game Saturday at 6:30, which program is this game more meaningful to? Is it the Ole Miss program, having come off a couple of years of slight probation that I think really hindered the program for a couple of years, or is it Arkansas, a team that's trying to get themselves back up into the national scene? Who's it more important for, in your opinion?
I think just depending on what side of the spectrum you're looking at it, honestly, because this is both huge for both programs, depending on which one you're paying attention more. Arkansas, you know, it took a little while. It just seemed like for Arkansas players to really buy in. It gets a little play for to build in a Chad Morrison system. I mean, I know he's a good coach. He's going to do good things at Arkansas when he gets, the players to make it happen. Not that they don't already, but if you look at it from what this coach can do if given a big SEC win and winning their first SEC game since I believe it was 2017, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
You look at that, and for Ole Miss, I mean, it just comes down to because I talked about this the other day to Mitch Davis. We're having 2 years of a bowl ban and having all those punishments in the year before. You have the punishments, yes. You have the scholarship losses, yes, and you have all that. But the players that were there when the didn't happen were still there. The talented players like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, those type talented players that are now in the NFL. But this is the year for Ole Miss where you're kind of having to pay for all those punishments, so to speak. Because that's when the lack of depth really starts to show, and just the lack of to get the lack of them not being able to get top tier talent even within their own state because knowing that they're not going to be able to go to a bowl game or really do anything other than except to just enjoy their college football experience. So I think you could look at it the same on both ends of the spectrum.
Real quick, I got about a minute and a half. I want you to thank you for taking time out, Jared. But if you have an offensive player for Ole Miss and a defensive player also too for the Rebels, and I want you to give me your score on which team wins it. Who would those be, and what would your final result on the game prediction be as well?
I mean, offensively, we're going to see how that offensive line improves, and really how Matt Corral, handles all the pressure that he showed glimpses of last week, but we're going to have to use big sample size against an SEC opponent this time around. Defensively, look for Benito Jones. Like he was a big disruptor all throughout his time, at Ole Miss so far. Now a senior veteran, is just really explosive off the ball. It could really just cause wreak havoc. So just essentially you can see how Arkansas if they run right at him or how they scheme around him. But if I had to put a score to this one, just knowing what Arkansas is capable of doing with their ground game and an Ole Miss defense that has a good sample size, but we're not exactly sure yet. I would have to say Arkansas 27, Ole Miss 17.
Well, good prediction, my man. Thanks for taking time out. Real quick, tell all our viewers and listeners how they can continue to follow all your Ole Miss Rebel updates.
You can. So I write for the Daily Mississippian, so you can read all of our stuff on our website at thedmonline.com. You can follow the Daily Mississippian on Twitter at @TheDM_news. And you can follow, more particularly, if you want to talk about sports, the Daily Mississippian sports section, which their Twitter handle is @TheDM_sports. You can see all the stuff that we're writing out on there and follow us on Twitter for updates throughout the game if y'all need to.
Well, as always, Jared, I'll catch you down there as my producer, and I'll be heading out first thing in the morning, and we'll catch up with you in the press box. But thanks for taking time out here on the A, and thanks for taking time out here on OTH, my man.
All right, looking forward to seeing y'all there.
All right.
Take care.
That was Jared Brady of Daily Mississippian. We're going to step away real quick. I want to get a take from Demetrius and some of the things that he heard from Jared of the Daily Mississippian. What were your takes that he's starting to see with this big SEC opener versus the Rebels in the Hall? Well, real quick, we'll step away, get a real quick break. We caught up with the Chief earlier in the week for those that didn't get a chance to hear.
There we go. I'm in there, Pat.
With the Chief and,
I'm with you, Pat.
all right, look at you.
So on his take, it really sounds to me like Ole Miss is still suffering from that bowl ban, and that was going to be my question. Do you think had Mississippi State not, or I should say Ole Miss not had that bowl ban, they would be in the situation they are? Because it just seems like they have not recouped since, Nkandiji, was probably the last MDG?
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like that whole class, like they have not recouped and bounced back from that.
That class came at too high of a cost, and I think anytime you go through a probation where scholarships are limited, it's going to hinder you to a certain degree because it's going to take out half of at least 2 years worth of your recruiting classes. But we're going to step away, get us a real quick break. We caught up with the Chief. We're going to let you hear some of what he had to say about his defense, and then up next on the A, the Democrat Gazette, Scotty Borderland. Time to talk Hogs and game keys. It's on the hill, and it's the A. Back in a moment. Welcome back. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our A edition of OTH that we do each and every day, each and every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay and Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville and office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting, residential, commercial. If you want it to look good, contact Corey Beck's Custom Painting and our newest sponsor, KDK's Chicken. It's located at 989 South Razorback Road. Go down and see Keith, Kathy, and get you some of that chicken. And like they say, it's not your mama's. Best chicken in the South. But Arkansas travels to Ole Miss, down to Oxford, Mississippi, to take on the Rebels in their SEC opener. Kickoff is set for the SEC Network at 6:30 p.m. And you know, when we talk Arkansas and we need the skinny, we always got to go to the man that knows. Scotty Borland of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Scotty, welcome back to OTH, my man.
Thanks for having me, Pat. I appreciate it.
Let's get off into it. Arkansas coming off that Portland State victory. Not a lot of wow plays, so to speak. You know, they're heading to Ole Miss in this SEC opener. Hadn't won a SEC game since back in 2017, in October of 2017, for that matter. Heading down to the ball game, Scotty, what will be some of the keys that you're going to be keeping a close eye on in game 2?
Yeah, I think offensively, I think you want to see if you can continue running the ball, as well as Arkansas did in the opener. They ran for more than 200 yards. Rakeem Boyd was the team's leading rusher, ran for a career high last Saturday. But you want to see if you can get him on track for the second straight week, and maybe like another one of those complimentary backs like Devon Whaler or Chase Hayden, see if they can get going a little bit. As far as quarterback play, I think you want to see Ben Hicks or if Nick Starkle gets in the game, I think you want to see them. They'll be a little bit sharper. I rewatched the game, I think on Tuesday, and Ben Hicks, he didn't throw a pick, but I charted him with 3 interceptable passes and 3 inaccurate balls. Amid the drops that the receivers had and the tight ends had. So you just want to see him play a little bit sharper, and you want to see the offense. You want to see if they can play with the tempo that Chad Morris has been talking about since he got here, but we haven't seen it yet. Defensively, I think you just want to kind of see the same things. They were pretty good in the run game last week. Want to see if you can come away with some turnovers. Those turnovers, in conference games on the road, those can lead to some points that might make a difference in a game.
The true freshmen that were made available in player media availability this week, Trey Knox and Traylon Burks, 2 big-time wide receivers there at the University of Arkansas. How big is it offensively in this ball game in particular that those 2 guys, as well as Mike Woods and that entire receiver core, are able to make plays and impact this game early on, Scotty, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's pretty big. We always put a big emphasis on quarterback play. The quarterbacks have to be sharp, but the receivers also have to make plays. They have to work themselves open and make plays after the catch too, like catch a 10 or 15 yard pass and you turn it into a 25 or 30 yard play. It kind of changes things. It can kind of change the shape of an entire drive. You might be able to go get some points out of it.
But Trey Knox and Traylon Burks, on Tuesday, I know you heard it too. They both said that they feel like they can go in and go in Saturday, and they said dominate. I'm not sure that they'll be able to do that, but might be able to probably be able to move the ball a little bit. Ole Miss's defense looked pretty good against Memphis, but again, that was Memphis. We'll see, but yeah, I mean, obviously you got to get your playmakers going on the road. They can make some plays early, might build some confidence, and they do a big day.
Talking with Scotty Borland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. For those that have just tuned in to our live broadcast on here with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk, it's our A edition, as we like to do each and every Friday. To the defensive side of the ball, Scotty, this defense I thought played, okay. They have a potential. I think they're at Arkansas and the Chief to play a lot better. When you look at them, what do they have to take away from this Ole Miss offense on Saturday to ensure maybe, do they get that losing taste out of their mouth, Scotty? It's been a while since this team's won an SEC game, and I think it's going to be the defensive side that's going to have to do it. What must they do for Arkansas on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing as last week. Portland State came in with a quarterback, Davis Alexander, that could escape the pocket when pressure came, and Arkansas didn't do a great job containing him. I know in the first series, it might have been their second or third play. He escaped pressure because of an assignment bust and ran 20 yards downfield. A better team probably ends up putting that ball in the end zone instead of having to settle for a field goal. So Matt Corral, I know he can run it a little bit. He's a young kid, but he's confident, and I know he's confident in his arm.
Right.
So they'll have to contain him. DBs will have to be on their toes because, it's obviously going to be a big step up in competition from what they saw last week. So just eliminating the big play, the explosive play, maybe just trying to stop Ole Miss from, scoring in, a minute 15, a minute and a half. Just make them work for whatever they get.
When you look at this team, Cheyenne O'Grady, Coach Moore spoke with us, I believe on Wednesday, and had made mention that Cheyenne O'Grady would be available back offensively for this football team. How big is that to have a senior tight end that's considered? I consider him one of the 3 or 4 top tight ends in the league this year. Talk about adding Cheyenne to this offense. How big of a safety net or a safety valve is that when you're being Hicks and you need a senior receiver, somebody in that receiving corps that has the experience of a Cheyenne O'Grady?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. He can really be a safety valve. I think Arkansas's receivers and tight ends, and running backs too. I think running backs had 2 drops, but that whole group, like your pass catcher, had 6 drops last week. And I don't think we see Chase Harrell drop 3 at the tight end spot if O'Grady is playing.
Right.
So I expect the receivers to play a little bit cleaner. Adding a proven guy like him is obviously really big, and might be able to, if Ben Hicks can hit O'Grady just on some, just kind of check down throws, he can make something happen with his feet after the catch too, which can extend drives. And we saw it at A&M last year. He could get him in scoring position. And he's a big red zone target too, so that's always a plus. But it'll be big having him back. I think he's arguably your top playmaker outside of Raheem Boyd. So it's obviously really big getting him back for the start of conference play.
Kicking game. How big will that be in this contest? It came down 2 years ago. Arkansas drops down 30. They come back, get it to overtime. Connor Limpert wins the game on a field goal. But you add another transfer in Roy. Talk about the kicking game, and will this be a big factor? Do you believe in this ball game?
Yeah, it potentially could be. We saw it play a big role a couple of years ago when these teams met at Ole Miss, and Connor Limpert, I know, is not short on confidence. He's one of the most accurate kickers in program history. Over the last 2+ years. And, I think Chad and that special team staff, I think they like Sam Loy a lot. They like what he did with his sky punts last week. And if it wasn't for a couple of blunders by, the Gunners on punt coverage, they would have pinned Portland State inside the 5-yard line 3 times, which is exceptional. So, if Arkansas does end up punting, inside its 35-yard line again, several times like it did last week, that could obviously be a big weapon. Its field position was a battle that Arkansas lost consistently last year. But yeah, Sam Lloyd could be a weapon, and I think they don't want to punt maybe inside their own 35-yard line. Lumperd's good. He feels from 50 any given game. So yeah, it'll be important too.
Last two questions. We have a couple of minutes left for you. I know you're in route to Oxford, but first question is, who's this game mean more for? Mean more to? Is it Coach Luke or is it Coach Morris there at Arkansas? And the second part of that question, give me your offensive and defensive player of the game to tie all that in. What's your final score in tomorrow night's ball game on the SEC Network versus the Arkansas and the Ole Miss Rebels?
Yeah, I think your first question, obviously we look at it from an Arkansas perspective first. Matt Luke's won some games in the SEC, I think, with Ole Miss. And just looking at it from Arkansas's point of view, like if Arkansas doesn't win this game in Oxford, then your next chance for a win is at Texas A&M, a game that you can't seem to win over the last 4, 5, 6 years. And then your next conference game is at Kentucky, so another road game. And then I believe Alabama and Auburn are next up. So like if you don't win it now, then you might not know where that first one is coming from. Right. And by that point, you can lose a significant part of your fan base if you're a head coach. You start your career here, 0-10, 0-12 in the league. So it's a big game for Chad. I think he's going to try to pull out all the stops to try to grab this one. As far as the player of the game on offense, I'll go with Rakeem Boyd. I think he's really looking forward to this game. He exited last year's game early, after he ran for over 100 yards in the first quarter. So I'm looking for him, and maybe a co-offensive player of the game might be O'Grady. I think they're going to get him really involved early too. On defense, I'm going to be watching Mateo Soli. He's practiced all week with a club on his hand, fractured a bone in week 1. But I think it's a big moment for him. But I think he's ready for it. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him go out and play well.
Well, Scotty, as always, I'll catch up with you down at the press box or on the field tomorrow. You have a safe trip down. And once again, my man, thanks for taking time out here on the hill.
Yeah, you bet. Travel safe.
All right. That was Scotty Bordelin of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette giving us his take on how he sees things going. And real quick, before we get on to our audio with, I believe, freshman wide receiver Traylon Burks, I want to get a real quick take before also to our next featured guest, Alyssa Orange of the KNWA and the Pig Trail Nation. She'll be joining us here momentarily. But real quick, Demetrius, listen to Scotty. Does he have good points? Is it going to be, which part of this game do you think is going to be the biggest difference as to who wins and who loses?
Arkansas scoring points. I think with what you saw last year, I'm really not comfortable with Arkansas going in offensively. If I had to watch just off the first game, who had the better offense, I'm going with Ole Miss. Although they did start off slow, they still put points on the board. And I think we haven't even seen Arkansas's red zone ability. A lot of those points that they scored were off kicks and big plays. So I'm still really ready to see what Arkansas can do on a consistent basis. So, again, I think Arkansas offense really has to step up for this game.
Well, we're looking for a position I know a lot of fans want to see step up, and that's true freshman wide receiver, Traylon Burks. We caught up with Traylon earlier in the week. Here's what Traylon had to say. Then following that, Alyssa Orange. She'll be joining the A to give us her takes on this Arkansas Ole Miss SEC opener. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it.
On our routes and getting our depths and stuff like that.
It looked like you might have hurt your knee a little bit on that pump.
No, sir. It just scared me. That was the first time I got hit in my knee since I've had surgery. So it was just a scare.
That provides some relief for you?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I felt good afterwards being hit in it. So I'm not really worried about it anymore.
With the punt returns, when Deion went down, were you ready for it this time?
Yes, sir. I knew I had to step up. It was a big thing. It hurt us that he went down, but I told him that I had his back and I was going to go out there and help him out.
Both Coach Morris and Coach Craddock said you guys pretty much just ran a base offense. Do you think that might have helped? Those guys maybe diagnose what you were doing a little easier.
Yeah. I think they kind of made it a little bit easier on us as me and Trey as being freshmen. and I mean it helped out a lot. But I think this week, this Ole Miss week is going to be a lot tougher on us. We're going to have to do a lot of more studying and film time, and so it'll be a big experience for us.
What was the overall assignment sound that you had in terms of getting depth and just meshing with Ben and quarterbacks?
I mean, it really wasn't that much. I mean, we just had to execute on what plays we had and making sure we blocked when we weren't getting the ball and on the run, blocking, and then when we had our chances, made sure that we did impact with big plays.
Which you gonna bring first, long touchdown catch or a long power?
We just had to wait to see. So.
What did it mean to you and Trey to just, get starting assignments right when you walk in here,
I mean, it wasn't really like getting starting assignments. We had to earn it. We had to come and work every day. They didn't give us nothing. So we had to come out and work and push ourselves and to be better and push the older players to be better. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was given to us. We had to earn it.
How much of that was a learning experience, and how much better you think you'll be in game two?
It was a big learning experience. I mean, it was my first time playing since last year, so that was a little nerve-wracking. And then other than that, I mean, I think I've been working on, we all as a team been working on a lot, getting better on what we didn't do last week. So I think it's going to be a great week.
What do you see out of the Ole Miss secondary?
I mean, they're pretty good, but I feel like we're going to dominate. Just being honest with you.
Talk about how big it is to go against your secondary here, and that you get to go against every.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal going against our own secondary. I mean, they push us every day. Cam Curl, Scooter, Sosa, Jaquez, Buster. I mean, they push us every day, and so that doesn't do anything but make us better. So.
To the fans.
Welcome back. It's our A edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. Momentarily, we'll be joined by Alyssa Orange as she's en route to Oxford, Mississippi, and the moment we can make connection with her, hopefully we can get Alyssa on for her to give you all her take. But I want to bring in my co-host and producer is Demetrius. She's telling me the Facebook page, people chiming in, got a lot of questions, and we want to interact with our listeners and viewers. So now's a good time. Let's rock and roll.
Definitely. We had a question from Nick. Not a question, but a statement from Nick Lee. I think it's a very good comment. He says, it will be important for the young corners and DBs to have a big game to give the older guys a break. That being said, offense needs to put up some big points.
I think it's real important that Arkansas wins the time of possession, can sustain long drives, give their defense a lot of time to rest. I really agree with that point. They're going to have to put up a lot of points, but I think Arkansas is really going to have to open up the playbook and take more shots down the field. I'm a big believer, Demetrius, that if you're good in the box, you can be good over the top. And what I mean by that is having that solid running back. And I think Rakeem Boyd, if he can establish himself along with Chase, Devois, and hopefully get a glimpse of the true freshman, Amonte Spivey, then I think that's when the play-action pass starts to be a real big weapon for Arkansas. And you get those chunk plays to Trey and Traylon and the Mike Woods and Coyle. And you can really see the dynamics of this offense.
I think they're gonna. If I'm Ole Miss, I'm changing it. I'm gonna make them throw the ball. I think Ole Miss knows what Rakeem can do. I think single-handedly last year they almost saw him beat them by himself. So I think Ole Miss is not gonna be surprised. You got to understand, Rakeem was a new player last year. Nobody really knew a lot about him, and that Ole Miss was almost his coming out party. Right. That was when everybody in the SEC kind of knew who Rakeem Boyd was. So I think it's gonna be crucial that. That they scheme to set Rakeem up and they don't force it, because I know Chad, he's going to look at it like, okay, we ran the ball last year, we ran it down their throat, we can do it again. But like the beat writer said, I think the defense on Ole Miss is better this year, so I don't think they're going to be able to attack them the same way. I really think they have a better advantage at the wide receiver position. And when I was talking about those mismatches between C.J. O'Grady, Trey Knox, and Traylon Burks and Mike Woods, I think that's really where you're going to win that battle.
I totally agree with you. Real quick before we continue on, and as we try to make connections, hopefully we can have Alyssa Orange on of the Pig Trail Nation to get her takes of Arkansas Ole Miss. Want to let everyone know that this broadcast comes to you by the support of Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, it's located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville, and Corey Beck's Custom Painting. residential, commercial. If you want it to look good, contact Corey Beck. I know you will not be disappointed. He hooked our studio up, and I'm telling you, I'm very, very pleased with the work. And lastly, our newest sponsor, KDK's Chicken, located at 989 Razorback Road. Go down and see Keith, Kathy, and get some of that, the best chicken in the South. And like they say, it's not your mama's. Not your mama's at all. Best chicken in the South. I want to give a thank you to our proud sponsors. Any more questions that we want to touch base on, Demetrius? Any more feedback that our fans have?
No, we just had another comment from Mr. Roy. He says they can't come out vanilla. They can't have that vanilla offensive playbook. They're really going to have to come out, and I think I have to agree with Scotty. Scotty said, man, they're going to have to pull out all the bells and whistles for this game, and I do firmly believe that because I don't think Arkansas can win this game unless they score over 30 points. I'm really thinking 30 to 35 points. I don't want to get my prediction out too early, but they're going to at least need to score 30 points. I think the SEC is really turning into an offensive-minded conference where we have the ability to put those points up on the board, and it's not so much focused on the type of defense. But if you do have a defense, you have an advantage. But I think now it's all about scoring points in the SEC.
Yeah, now my key is I think Arkansas is really going to have to hone in on the two linebackers. These are two stud linebackers. But like you said, Demetrius, we had what's his name? Momo Sanogo joined us at SEC Media Day. We got a chance to talk to that young man. But Arkansas, too, also has to keep an eye on a guy that they were really, really, really after and wanted to become a Razorback in the process was Lakia Henry. I think this guy was the number one junior college linebacker in all the country. And from what I saw in watching the game last weekend, did nothing to disappoint. Was in on 7 tackles. I felt like the guy was sideline to sideline, always saw the young man around the football. And I think that's going to be something Arkansas is really going to have to count for, is making sure those linebackers are blocked and they can open up a lot of running lanes. And if they can do that, then I think Arkansas's play action will really start to take effect, and you'll see a lot of those chunk plays with Traylon and Trey and Mike Knox and the bigger receivers. I think we'll be able to make some plays for Arkansas.
And I think you hit it on the head right there, that play action. I think that play action is really what's going to make those guys bite and give guys like O'Grady, give guys like Traylon Burks the opportunity to make those big plays, because they're going to eventually scoot those defensive backs back. I promise you. It's too much speed at the wide receiver. It's too much height and speed at the wide receiver position. Couldn't get that out. Wide receiver position for them to play man on these guys. These guys are going to have to play some type of zone. And when they scoot those guys back and make them back up, that's where Rakeem and you're going to see a little bit of Chase Hayden and Devois Weather really take over the game.
And, you know, on the defensive side of the ball, the younger guys that'll have to step up in the absence of Dorian Gerald. I feel like Colin Clay and Zach Williams will get the bulk. I think you'll see more of Colin Clay due to just being the more physically ready freshman, I do believe, at 285. But you're going to see Zach Williams out there. I think you're going to see a lot more of the freshmen, and they're just going to have to step up on that side of the ball. I mean, this is a really, really young defensive side of the football, and you know, we'll see how they step up and how they grow up tomorrow at 6:30 in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. But we caught up with the Chief. We weren't able to play some of the Chief excerpts earlier in the broadcast, so we want to let our listeners that just tune in hear what Chief had to say about the defense. And then next up, we're going to be joined by Otis Kirk of Hogville.net, and then you know what follows that is PD and O, their weekend picks. That's all up next. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, and it's the A. Let's get it.
A big part of the measure is, you know, how do you improve from the first game to the next? And usually, not always, but that's where you get the biggest amount of improvement. So, you know, we're ready to go back to work. I did a little bit yesterday, and obviously tomorrow will be a big day for us, and that's what it's about. You know, correcting and preparing for an SEC team, and we're excited about that. So, questions?
Your hand there, Mike. Bob.
Yeah, Chief Chad Phillips on Dorian's situation. First off, how big a relief is it that he's going to be okay when you hear something like that? And then also from a team perspective, how tough is that for me as a guy that probably looked like he's ready for a big senior year?
Well, you know, you really feel for Dorian. He's prepared hard during the off season, and you know, that won't go to waste. You know, he'll have an opportunity to redshirt and be even better next year. But hey, you gotta, you know, it happens. You know, in this game, you get injuries, and you gotta get people ready. You know, that's why in the fourth quarter we played a lot of young people. You know, because we sat there and don't get them in the game, and then all of a sudden we got to get them in the game, and they hadn't been there, then it's going to be different for them. So we've talked all even back in spring about building depth, and that's a big part of it. Obviously you don't like to lose anybody, but we got to get the next guys ready to go.
And G, could you describe what the new Ole Miss offensive scheme is about, and have you matched up with Rich Rod in the past?
No, never have. And it's a lot of what we've seen. Very, very, very fast tempo, a lot of zone read. They won't run football. They won't do. That's what they like doing, and to be a good football team, I think that's something that you have to do. But they want to get that done, and certainly use the quarterback in running the football. I don't know as compared to what he did at Arizona. Where they are at quarterback. Certainly they got one that's very talented. He can run, he can throw, he can do all those things. So we expect to see a wide open offense, and I don't think we'll see anything that we hadn't seen at some point in time. But he's been very successful. He's done a tremendous job, and you go back and really one of the guys that kind of got this era of football started. In terms of going fast and a lot of the formations and a lot of the shifts and stuff that we're going to see.
Welcome back. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our A edition, as we like to do each and every Friday, to get you ready for kickoff of the Arkansas Ole Miss Rebels, 6:30 p.m. This Saturday in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. But we got to catch up with our good buddy, because when it's Arkansas and we lead into the picks, you know who we're going to have on. Otis Kirk of Homeville.net. Otis, welcome back to OTH, my man.
Hey, thanks for asking me to be on here again, Pat. I'll enjoy it, man.
Let's get off into it. Tomorrow night's game, a big game. We both understand that. But what are some keys offensively when you look at this Arkansas offense versus this Ole Miss defense that they have to establish, Otis, in tomorrow night's game to pick up that first SEC win or give them the best chance to get that win?
Well, convert in the red zone and get points. Don't just put yards up, and don't drop passes. Don't turn the ball over, and convert when you get in the red zone. Right? Those three things. Just the drop passes killed them last week.
Right.
There was a couple passes being through that could have been intercepted. Nick did throw one. Don't turn the ball over, and then and I mean, just get points when you get down there, and get preferably 7 instead of 3. But you got to score points. You can't leave points on the field. You get a turnover, or you have first and goal at the 9, or first and 5 at the 9. You can't settle for field goals there. You've got to get touchdowns. So get touchdowns. Don't turn the ball over, and eliminate the drop passes. So if they can do those three things, I think offensively they'll be fine.
My matchup that I'm really going to be paying attention to when at the stadium tomorrow night will be the matchup of the Ole Miss defensive backs versus Arkansas's young but very talented wide receiver core. They didn't get very many targets of significance, in my opinion, last Saturday. I feel like they're going to have to be a big part. Where are you at with that matchup, Otis, in tomorrow night's matchup?
Well, I think if they can get the ball to them and the offensive line gives Ben time to throw or Nick time to throw, I think they'll get them. I mean, those kids can get open. Talking about Knox and Traylon and Mike Woods and those kids and some of the other, Tyson Morris. Those kids can get open. But they got to get the ball to them. The quarterback's got to have time to find them, which he did last week. Right. But we all know everything's going up a few notches as far as competition level and talent level on the other side of the ball is going up a few notches this week. So, Arkansas's got to protect the quarterback, but you can give them time, and if they can, those guys can win that battle. I mean, those kids, they're freshmen, but those are not, especially Trey Knox and Traylon Burks are not normal freshmen. I mean, those two guys are standouts, and they can win those matchups if the quarterback can get the ball to them. Nick got the ball to Trey that time, and that's what you've got to do.
Otis, how important is it and how big is it for the offense to get a guy of C.J. O'Grady's talent level This is a guy that I think is one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in all of the SEC, and pretty much a guy that has a chance to play on Sundays. Talk about getting him back offensively. And I spoke with Scotty Borderland, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. And don't you feel like that's a safety valve for the quarterback if you're Nick Starkel or Ben Hicks, having CJ on that side of the ball with you this coming Saturday?
Well, I don't think it's any coincidence when he started catching the ball and started playing last year, that the offense all of a sudden didn't look too bad, and I mean, I think part of that was Ty got solidified at quarterback, got in there, but I think, Rakeem obviously, but I think the biggest thing is it's night and day when Cheyenne's in there and when he's not in there is night and day. I mean, that kid is big time, and you target him 5 times, it'll be more than 1 reception. And some of those drops were at the tight end position, and that won't happen with Cheyenne. Or he might drop one, but I mean, hey, if he drops one, he's probably going to make another catch that he probably shouldn't get. He's going to make a spectacular catch. So, I mean, no, I mean, that's all the difference in the world. And I don't think it's a coincidence that when Cheyenne started playing last year and they targeted him, then the offense got a lot better.
Continue on, Otis.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I just think he's the difference in night and day, and the offense and him not being in there. I think if you put him in there last week, some of those problems are solved. I mean, he's a big target down on the red zone. He gives you somebody to throw to down there that can outmuscle those defense. I mean, how many defensive backs are close to his size? None. So, I mean, this kid is done it time after time after time. And as I said, Pat, I don't think it's coincidence when he started playing last year and they started targeting him and he got the ball. All of a sudden, that offense looked pretty darn good. And part of that was a big part of it was Cheyenne.
When you look at Arkansas defensively, the one thing that jumped out to me, Otis, and we've been watching it all fall camp, is the way in which the secondary was able to intercept a lot of passes, create a lot of turnovers. They translated that into the Portland State game by picking off 3. The secondary, this team got 5 the whole season last year. Talk about how important it is for them to continue to play, and then how big is it Saturday for that defensive front, minus Dorian Gerald, to get some pressure and be disruptive to that quarterback there at Ole Miss.
Well, I mean, that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, when Cameron took that ball back inside, to about the 14-yard line or something at Portland State, Arkansas didn't get points there, but they should have. Right. And that's what you've got to do. And if the defensive can give them some interceptions and fumble recoveries and stuff, which last year they got plenty of fumble recoveries. It was the interceptions they couldn't come up with. They had 5 all season. They got 3 Saturday. And I think that's going to make all the difference in the world in this team. And I hope they can keep that up, because if they do, you're going to see a different level defense, and it's eventually going to help. It's going to help the offense. Like I said, if you've got Cheyenne in there and you get the ball at their 14-yard line or something, you can target him, and more times than not, you're going to score And so I think there's going to be a lot of things in play, and if they can get the turnovers this week that they got last week, or even close to those, and keep pressure on the Ole Miss quarterback, they're going to be fine down there tomorrow night. I mean, there's a lot of ifs, but if they happen, Arkansas is going to be fine, and I'm not guaranteeing they're able to do that, because as I said, the competition level, talent level on the other side of the ball goes up several notches this week, and it, as it does anytime you play in you go from non-conference to SEC, it's going to go up a few notches. But I mean, Arkansas's got talent. They've got the talent. I think they're more talented than Ole Miss. I think they've just got to go down there and not beat themselves, and I think they'll be fine.
Well, we're getting ready to fire up the music, because you know what time it is now, Otis. Every time we finish out the A, and for you listeners and viewers, if you want to shoot in your picks, for this be sure to put your name, where you're from, and who you're picking. We're going to fire up there, and as soon as I get the cue from my producer, I believe he's ready. Well, let's get it going. First game up, New Mexico State travels to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. We'll start with you, Otis. Where are you going?
New Mexico State. I'm joking. That's a joke. Believe me, Alabama gets that one. That's a freebie. Yeah.
Demetrius?
Roll Tide, roll.
Man, I have to agree. It's not if. It's just by how much. And I think having played the way that they played in the first half versus the Duke Blue Devils, and knowing Coach Saban the way that we know him to be, they won't come out and play like that. So we'll go with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Next up, Auburn coming off the big win, a comeback win versus a top 5 team in Oregon. They host the Tulane Green Wave. Where we at?
Which game is this?
Auburn and Tulane. Down in the
Auburn,
Plains.
yeah, Auburn.
I have to agree with all this. Definitely Auburn.
When a guy starts a legacy and starts a career like Pat Bo Nix did, you can't help but go with the Auburn Tigers. I'm going to take the Tigers in this one. Next up, Florida hosts University of Texas Martin. Where we going, though?
Florida. I'm staying with the SEC in that one.
Demetrius?
I have to agree with. Hey, Otis is on the road today. I'm gonna have to agree with Otis. Florida.
I'm going Florida. Same thing as Alabama. Not by how much, not by it, but just by how much. We'll go with the Gators in that one. Following that one up, Georgia hosts Murray State. Where are we going, though?
Georgia. I'm going to stick with Georgia. Stuck them last week. I'll stick with them again. They're going to win.
I'm sticking with Otis. Georgia again.
I'm going to stay with the group. I won't be the black sheep in this deal. I'm taking the big dogs of Georgia. Sam Pittman and the offensive line just too much for Murray State. Kentucky host Eastern Michigan. Otis?
I'll go with Kentucky. I don't think Kentucky's that good this year, but I mean, they're good enough to win this game, and I know they won the last one, but it's not that I think they're that good. I just think they do win this one, though.
Demetrius?
I think they have a little bit. Their athlete should out athlete these guys, so I'm going to go Kentucky.
Next up, I'm taking Kentucky as well. Next up, Southern Mississippi travels to Stanksville to take on the Mississippi Bulldogs. Otis?
I took Mississippi State in that one. There again, I'm not sure Mississippi State's as good as a lot of people think they are this year, but they're good enough to win this game. That game.
Demetrius?
Definitely have to go Mississippi State.
I'm going Hail State myself. Next up, Charleston Southern takes on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Otis?
I'll go with South Carolina. There again, I thought they'd win last week, but I don't think Charleston Southern's in North Carolina's league, and also, you know, the game's at home, so it makes a big difference for the Gamecocks. I'll go with them in this one.
Demetrius?
I'm going South Carolina. I don't think Will Muschamp can afford to lose 2 games in a row to surrounding schools, so I'm going to have to go South Carolina.
Same thing, Gamecocks all the way. Next up, Tennessee host BYU, the Cougars. Otis?
They let me down this week, man. Then I'll have to rethink it in the future, but I'll go with them one more week.
Man, I'm kind of on the fence on this one, but I'm gonna go BYU. I go BYU this week. I don't think they have enough down there at Tennessee, and I think they're just in so much turmoil that they really don't have an identity right now. I'm gonna go to BYU.
I'm gonna go with Tennessee. I'm gonna try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't want Jeremy Pruitt to catch the flack so early in his head coaching career, so I'm gonna go with Tennessee. I think they're in the same situation. They can't have 2 home losses back to back either. Next up, Purdue host the Vanderbilt Commodores. Otis?
Yeah, this is one I've thought about. It's flip a coin on this one. I'm gonna go with Purdue, and I know they had a bad loss last week. They lost their lead to Nevada. They had a big loss, a bad loss. But when in doubt, I usually go with the home team, and that's why I'm going. If this game was at Vanderbilt, I'd go with Vandy, but I'll go with Purdue. But it wouldn't surprise me if this game goes the other direction.
Demetrius?
I got to stick with my guy Mason. I know he lost that first game, but I think he gets him on the track against the Purdue Spoilmakers.
I'm going to stay SEC. I'm trying to be a homer in this game, and I too am a Coach Mason fan, so I will take the Vanderbilt Commodores on the road to go get a big win for the SEC. Next up, now we're getting a little big time with this game. West Virginia travels to Columbia to take on the Missouri Tigers. Notice?
Same thing I said about the last game. It could probably go either way, but Missouri's at home. I will take them. They lost last week. That's probably the worst thing could have happened to West Virginia is the fact that Missouri lost last week. So they're probably any chance of them slipping up on Missouri is probably gone. And Wyoming beating them didn't surprise me, but because Wyoming's a team that's just difficult to play them. I mean, you're supposed to beat them, and if you don't, you lose. I mean, but I'll go with Missouri. I don't think they'll lose 2 in a row.
Demetrius?
I'm gonna have to go Missouri. I think that offense wins the game. I'm not so sold on that defense, but I know Chad Kelly and Jonathan Nance. I really like that duo that they had. Seemed to have a lot of chemistry. I'm gonna go Missouri.
All right, I'm gonna go Missouri. Now we got about 2 minutes with 3 more picks, and it gets real hot. As I think these next 2 are the games of all of college football. The first one, Texas hosts the LSU Tigers. Notice?
I'll go with Texas simply because they're home, Pat, but I think LSU could easily beat them.
Demetrius?
I'm going them Bayou Bengals, baby.
I think I'm going to go SEC. It's a homer thing. I'm going to stay with the Bayou Bengals. I'm taking Ed O to go to the ATX and get that big win for the SEC.
That's going to be huge.
The next huge one, I mean, this one might be the Mount Everest game of the weekend. Texas A&M travels to Clemson in Death Valley to take on the Tigers. Otis?
Clemson.
Demetrius? Clemson A&M.
You know, I really want to go A&M just because I want the SEC to be on top, but I still think Clemson is the king right now, and they have the crown. Clemson in that one.
No, I'm a Dabo guy. I think Clemson is the team that everybody's trying to reach. I know it used to be Alabama, but I think the way Clemson and Dabo's built that program, they are the best team in college football. Maybe not in the best conference, but the best team, and they get this one at home versus Jimbo and those boys. Clemson wins this one. In the game that we're all going to be traveling to and covering and bringing a lot of information from Jamal Knight down in the Grove, Arkansas, Ole Miss. And I want an offensive player, defensive player, and the final score of the ball game. Otis?
Cheyenne O'Grady on offense. I'll go with Scooter Harris on defense because it was a game and Pearl last week, so I'll go with Scooter on D. Pick Arkansas 28-24.
Demetrius?
I will go with Arkansas wins the game. Defensive player of the game will be McClellan. Then my offensive player of the game will be Traylon Burks. And the score, 28-31.
I'm going Arkansas 27, Ole Miss 17. Offensive player, I believe, will be Trey Knox. I can also go. I want to go 2. I think. Can we get 3?
Oh, man, you done put the whole offense. Go ahead.
I want to do Cheyenne, Trey, and Traylon. I think those 3 guys are going to have a very, very big day offensively. I think defensive player, I'm going to go Joe Fouché. I think he's just the guy's just playing at a different level into his sophomore year. And I think Arkansas, like I said, wins the game 27-17. But Otis, that's going to wrap it up, my man. Thanks for taking time out here on the Hill. I believe Demetrius has a quick comment.
No, I just wanted to say, Miss Tangi Collins, she commented on your shirt, and I wanted you to tell the listeners a little bit about your shirt, what HO3 FO6 means, and how we'll potentially be having on a website.
HO3 FO6, and I've got a lot of questions about that. It means Hogs on 3, Family on 6, and we'll be putting these shirts on sale. Stay tuned for more information, but HO3 FO6 means Hogs on 3, Family on 6, and you get those shirts in red. And gray, and we'll have them in white and maybe multiple colors. I think we got headbands coming out, orange sleeves, all those things. So, just tune in, stay close up, and we'll have more information. But that's what it means. HO3FO6, it's Hogs on 3, Family on 6. I want to give a thank you to my good buddy for joining us, Otis Kirk of hogville.net. Otis, thanks for taking time out here on the Hill, bud.
You bet. I'll see you tomorrow, Pat.
All
right.
right.
Take a trip down.
All right. That was Otis Kirk of Hogville.net, and that's going to wrap today's segment of the A here on OTH on the Hill Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. Real quick note, I want to give a thank you to all of our guests. Jared Redding of the Daily Mississippian coming on to give us his take of the Rebels Hogs. Also to Scotty Borland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. And lastly, Otis Kirk of Hogville.net. Want to make a quick note that tonight, tune in to our broadcast of Fayetteville High Bulldogs football as they travel to Owasso, Oklahoma to take on the Owasso High School Rams. You can catch that broadcast brought by the play-by-play by myself, color analyst Anthony Hicks. Will come on pregame show at 7 p.m. Kickoff set for 7:30. You can catch that on 106.